Coming up on the show today, lots and lots and lots of Daggerheart news, Draw Steel, Call of Cthulhu-ish in D&D, plus a lot more coming up on the show. We'll see you back in 18 seconds.
Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
What's up, everyone? I'm Jim. That's Brad. I don't know who that third guy was in the intro there, that picture you saw. It's just me and Brad. We don't know anybody else. But holy crap, Gen Con was this week, Brad, and a ton of stuff happened.
Yeah, all
We're
sorts of stuff to talk about.
all sorts of stuff. We're gonna get to all the plethora of Daggerheart announcements in just a minute, but right up front, up here at the top, I want to say, hey, how you doing? Coming up in 89 minutes will be the fourth of four, the final installment of our four-part Daggerheart miniseries, The End, the last chapter, the big battle. It's coming up. That's crazy. Brad was there.
I was there.
What's up, Phil? What's up, Mr. Vincent? First up, in addition to all the crazy Daggerheart stuff, Draw Steel, the 1.0 version, came out yesterday, and I had supported it on BackerKit, and I had largely stayed away from a lot of the pre-release playtest stuff. I read a little bit about the game, but I hadn't looked into the mechanics or anything. Mike, yeah, a lot happened at Gen Con, and we're going to talk about it. But Draw Steel, the 400-page Heroes book and the the also very large Monsters book came out yesterday, and I skimmed through all of the Heroes book. I skipped a lot of stuff about the classes, but I kind of looked into the base mechanics, and I had some thoughts. So, Brad, if you don't mind, I want to run through things I like and things I don't like about Draw Steel
I'm
based
excited to
on
hear it.
my
Yeah.
initial skim. The first thing I like about it is that the first thing it says in the book, after all the table of contents and acknowledgement stuff, the first thing it says in the book is this is a game about fighting monsters. And I really appreciate that because there's a lot of games that are about fighting monsters, and we know they are, but they don't say it.
Great.
So I like I like that they're upfront about what their game is about. Also in that same section, right after that, there's a long section about what the game is not. And it says, the game is not this. If you're looking for a game like that, you might want to try this game. And in the PDF, those games are hyperlinked. Like it
Wow.
says, if you want a more narrative game, try Daggerheart, and it links to the Daggerheart website.
Nice.
That's that's very interesting that they're providing free linkage to other role playing games at the beginning of their game.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very Matt Colville thing to do, though. Like he is
Yeah,
all about building the D&D community and building the hobby, right?
indeed.
He's not trying to be exclusive and I want to be the only one to get all your money, right? He's very much about like, yeah, inclusivity. Let's get all these creators working together, giving shout outs to like YouTube channels he likes and creators he likes. Um, that,
100%.
that's been his brand, right?
Twin Steel, I saw Superman, enjoyed it. I also saw Fantastic Four. That was also very good. Different, but good. So other things I like, sort of like DC 20, they use trait points for ancestries. So like you pick an ancestry, you have a certain number of points to spend on features from that ancestry. The game uses only D10s and D6s. At least that's what it says in the intro for the game. It says you need two D10s and also maybe some D6s. Um, I like that it hand waves a lot of things. Like daily long rests are hand wave. You don't get your resources back. You get some resources back by resting, but most resources you get back in other ways. So they've just kind of removed that whole gamification of resting to get resources back,
Hmm.
which is interesting. The way that the game works is when you complete an objective like defeating all the monsters or convincing the Baron to allow you access to the town, you gain a victory. And then victories are converted into experience when you take a 24-hour rest. You have
Hmm.
to take a whole day rest. Very old school. a whole day rest during which time you work on downtime projects, and then you convert victories into experience and level up. Um, Instead of backgrounds from D&D, they have careers, which I think that's a better word. But they essentially provide the same functionality. I also like they have skill challenges, but they call them montage tests. I think
Interesting.
montage is a good word for a skill challenge. I feel like it describes what's happening. We're not going to show every little thing. It's an accumulation.
And that fits
Um,
the cinematic theme of the game, right? Because
yeah,
they're selling the game as cinematic combat, and they even call the game master the director.
right.
So the montage
Um,
fits.
and speaking of that cinematic stuff, one thing I like is they have separate abilities, which are called perks for non-combat situations. So when you build your character, you build their combat abilities and their non-combat abilities separately. Like
Hmm.
you don't have to be a bard to be good at talking to people. You could be a bruiser who is also a skilled carpenter or a good negotiator or an academic. And so those two things, your combat and non-combat and social stuff are completely separate in terms of your skills and abilities, which I kind of like that. I like that it gives you more flexibility to build your character. And then there's the thing called complications, which are boons, optional boons that also come with a drawback. And there's one I wanted to read here that I like a lot. It's called The Famous Relative. It says, sure, you're a promising young hero in your own right, but people always ask you about your famous relative. And then the benefit is you have a piece of magic jewelry, such as a signet ring. As a maneuver, you can use this item to summon your relative to your aid. Then there's some mechanical stuff, then they disappear after an hour. But then the drawback is it says you earn no victories from combat encounters or other challenges for which your relative was present.
Hmm.
So if you're in a tough spot, you can call on your cousin to help you, but then you don't get the credit for that victory.
Gotcha. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I like those kinds of I love those kinds of options in role-playing games where you can have this benefit, but it comes with a drawback.
Yeah, it allows for like the Deus Ex Machina, like so let's save our bacon, get us out of this jam. Um, but the player has a choice in it, and it has a built-in backstory behind it.
Yes, we are talking about Draw Steel. And Mike, it sounds like you know more about Draw Steel than me. Because I'm just giving my first impression feedback. Some things that I don't like. The D10, it's the second worst die. We all know that the D4 is the worst, right? We don't even have to debate the merits of that.
Hard to
D10
pick
is the
up.
second worst. Why is the D10 the second worst? Every time I roll a D10 and it comes out to a 0, it breaks my brain for a second. And if you're rolling a D100, don't even get me started. There's 3 zeros on those things. It breaks my brain every single time I roll a D10 and it comes up with a 0. I hate it. So I don't like that the main and only die you really need to play this game is a couple of D10s. The next thing, the main mechanic works is for everything 2d10, consult a chart. And then based on if you roll ranges like Powered by the Apocalypse, it's all you roll, and the range determines the effect, a low, medium, or high effect. And I know that their intent was to take away the sting of missing and to speed things up. And I don't really know if this does this, because if you roll low, the effect is still sucks,
Hmm.
and if you roll high, the effect is way better. So it doesn't take away the sting of a bad roll. Also, I don't really know if it's faster. I don't, because you still have to do two things, and then you also, depending on the result, you have to check that against the director. You have to roll the dice, add up the result, then check it against one of three options. And
Hmm.
sometimes those options have several caveats, like if the opponent's score is less than this thing happens. So I don't know if it's faster, but again, this is my first impression from reading the book. I watched about 10 minutes of an actual play with the MCDM guys are playing their new Delian Tomb.
Um, on that thought, like, so it's not as smooth as what I hear you saying as like Nimble, for example. Like we played Nimble together with Draw Steel, and they don't have a roll
Twin
to
Steel.
hit. I mean Twin Steel. Sorry, Draw Steel, Twin Steel.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So we played Nimble with Twin Steel, and I really liked the fact that you didn't roll to hit in that game, and that system seemed to work fairly well. So what you're reading of Draw Steel is it doesn't capitalize on the not rolling to hit as well as Nimble does. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm saying that that was my impression from reading the book, and I, have no play experience with Draw Steel,
Mm-hmm.
zero play experience. So, take my opinion with large grains of salt on your margarita glass. Um, the next thing that I don't like, well, I don't know if I. This is something that I don't like personally in games that I play, but it's probably perfect for this game. Is the word count on these abilities are hefty.
Mm.
If you're printing out pre-gens to play this at the game store, make sure that your printer is topped up with ink. Because these are fourth edition kind of long abilities, big stat blocks, lots of text, exceptions, qualifiers, conditions. This is a skirmish game with role play elements, so I mean, the 400-page book, probably 200 pages of it was like rules for combat. There's lots of diagrams about spacing and positioning. Um, and then the last thing, there are 50 skills that a character can have. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but that does mean that building characters is not going to be quick in Draw Steel. It's probably a very lengthy, difficult process. So
Right.
those are my opening thoughts on Draw Steel. I'm gonna study it more. Probably do a video about it within the next couple weeks. Draw Steel 4E was good, but just ahead of its time.
Yeah, I think that's solid. A solid takeaway. Um, I definitely think in a lot of ways 4E was ahead of its time. I think there were definitely some design flaws in 4E. Like I think 4E is a good game, but I don't think 4E is a good version of Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't feel like D&D to me. That's always been my take. But yes, I do think 4E was ahead of its time, and I think Matt's doubling down on that to kind of prove it to everyone with Draw Steel. One thing you said, Jim, when we were talking offline, is that the feeling like they hand wave a lot of the non-combat stuff. That like the combat's really crunchy. Everything else is pretty hand waved, like the exploration and social stuff. Is
Yeah,
that
like
right?
you don't. It says don't track rations, and it assumes that you have rope and everything. Like the inventory is flexible and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so they hand wave a lot of the things that I don't know. Maybe they had to because the combat's so crunchy. They need to handwave a lot of things to avoid the 4E problem of every encounter taking 6 hours to run.
Right. Um, the I remember early on in the playtest they had social rules. There was like rules for social encounters, and I heard a lot of people complain about them. Like there was criticisms about those social rules. So it seems like they've just removed those from that they had in the beginning of the playtest.
No, I mean there's a section. It's called perks.
Hmm.
That's all the non-combat stuff. Like I mentioned, how you could build your character with separate non-combat and social abilities, but um, it's definitely nowhere near the page count of any of the combat related stuff. But I kind of glossed over that. I think I was in full skim mode by that point and just kind of
Gotcha.
hitting the highlights. But yeah, so I can't really comment on that, on them being less or more than the playtest.
I'm curious to dig into that because I forget what it was called, but there was a very specific social. It was basically like social combat rules. Like there was like
Hmm.
there were like interaction rules for the social part of the game, and
That's very 4E.
it was met with criticism by a lot of folks. I specifically remember the Eldritch Lorecast group, going over how much they didn't like it,
Oh.
and they're like friends with Matt, so they got to play it early, and they they really bounced off the original playtest version of the Draw Steel social rules.
Indicating. Interesting. Mike, do you know, Mike, I'm in the chat. Do you know anything more? You seem more knowledgeable about Draw Steel than us. But anyway, moving on, because we can't talk forever about Draw Steel because we have umpteen bajillion Daggerheart news items to get through. I'm gonna try to go. So at Gen Con, and also there was a very, very educational Todd Kenrick video this week
Hmm.
where Todd dropped it like at the same time as Gen Con, and it was probably filmed way earlier, where Todd went to Daggerheart offices and interviewed Spencer Stark and interviewed Matt Mercer and Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford, and there were some tidbits in that interview with Todd Kenrick that didn't make it into their official announcements, but let's go through everything that Daggerheart announced. First of all, you see these class packs. This is what I've been asking for this. I've asked for that on this show. I said, I hope they do this. And what they're doing is they're kickstarting this, which some people were not happy about. You know, they say, well, Daggerheart, Darrington has got to have plenty of money. Why are they not just making them? And Matt Mercer explained that they're doing it this way so they can actually meet the demand because they've been sold out of Daggerheart in a very bad way and unable to every restock is gone just like that. So they want to know how many people want these before they print them, because apparently it's a lot easier to print and deal with the cards than it is the books.
Hmm.
So what they've done is that each of these class packs comes with full 70 cards, which would be like for the wizard here, you get both domains. The wizard has access to subclasses, ancestries, all the full, heritage and ancestry stuff. And so that you don't have to have the book. If you're, this is, I really like this too because I'm probably going to start running Daggerheart very soon in my friendly local game store, and I don't want those people taking my cards home at night. But I also don't want to be a dick about the cards and be like, no, give them beer, you know. But that's how I feel inside. That's what I want to say. I'm gonna say, get your hands off my cards. So this is really great. If you want to dip your toe in the water, I assume it'll probably be cheaper than the full price of the $60 whole thing. Also the homebrew kit. And now this was very interesting. Let me skip over to the homebrew kit. So they've released large book that has design principles for Daggerheart. And Matt Mercer said they wanted to put this in the core book, but it would have made the page count, would have thrown off the page count, and they would have had to cut it down to so short that it wouldn't have been worth it. So they've just took that section and thrown it up on daggerheart.com for free, which I think some other companies in the TTRPG space, they would probably say, well, let's save that for our next expansion book then. But Daggerheart just said, no, we couldn't fit it, so you get it for free. And so they have advice about creating specific cards, specific domain powers and ancestries and all that stuff. So if you're looking to get into Daggerheart design, homebrew kit is for free, or if you just want to get some advice for building stuff for your own table. The Romantasy campaign frame is interesting. There was in a Critical Role episode, Matt improved or one of them at the table improved a romance title called Tusk Love, which became a meme and then became an actual real novel. And now they're adapting that novel back into a Daggerheart campaign frame.
I love that. I love that when like art imitates life, imitates art, imitates life. That's fantastic.
Yeah, like the movie based on the video game, based on the movie, based on the novel. Age of Umbra, which just wrapped up last week, apparently did pretty well, and that they're going to do a season 2. What does that bode for campaign 4 of Critical Role using Daggerheart versus Dungeons and Dragons? We don't know. I've heard they've scheduled a big announcement next week. I think it's next week. They usually do their things on Tuesdays. Couldn't you just print off cheap copies of the cards so players could hold on to them? I could, Will, and that's a good point. So what was I talking about? Yeah, there's a big announcement coming next week. They're calling it the Critical Role Direct. So that's probably a okay. Also, so There's some actual plays coming from Legends of Evantris and a one-shot by Dungeons and Daddies. Um, there's a Daggerheart art book. There's custom minis on Hero Forge, specific to dice sets. And if you came here for the title of this video, apparently Keith Baker and Jen Ellis are making a new. The creator, Keith Baker, the creator of Eberron, is making a new world for Daggerheart. Are we going to get a post-apocalyptic future magic, too many houses society for Daggerheart? We might. I hope so.
And you're saying possibly an Eberron campaign. Can he do that? Because it didn't. Doesn't Wizards own the right to the Eberron title?
They own the right to the name Eberron, but they don't own the rights to a future magic post-apoc society.
Yeah, you can do Arcana Punk, post-apocalyptic society, and call it Berberon or something.
Eberron A. You can't just add an A to it. This isn't Pig Latin. Also, some other things that weren't in there. They teamed up with Duology. Where is that? Oh, also Age of Umbra. Matt made all custom adversaries for Age of Umbra that are not in the core book, and they published them all on Daggerheart.com. So if you like the monsters in Age of Umbra, there was some crazy stuff. Like one of my favorites was the Terror Gut, who had a big cage where his abdomen was, and he had tried trapped creatures in his gut. Whew. The minis were crazy. Age of Umbra is really good. So you can have stat blocks for all those if you want to do mediocre versions of that at your own table. Also,
wait, are you implying that there is truth to the Matt Mercer effect, that other game masters out there can't do it as well as Matt?
I didn't say that. I implied it, but I didn't say it, Brad.
All right, you implied it. That was a pretty big implication.
So this is really neat. So the music composing team Duology released an official theme song for Daggerheart. And the thing is, they're making it royalty free. And I think this is so bleeding smart. If they can get this out there for people, so now it's royalty free, so YouTubers can use it in the background of their videos about Daggerheart. Actual plays can use it in their video. Actual plays can use it as background music for their actual plays. If they can get a recognizable song out there, I don't know if this is Devious master plan, but in my head I think, well, their intent is now when somebody searches for Daggerheart on YouTube and finds a Daggerheart video, if they hear that theme song, it's gonna reinforce. I don't know if that's the intent. But I just think that, I'm going to download this and start using it in videos I make about Daggerheart.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, right? Yeah.
And if it becomes a recognizable song, just playing it at your table while you're running Daggerheart, I think would be awesome. What else? Yeah. Oh, no, that's the next thing. So we talked about that. Oh, yes, let's talk about that. This is the other super duper cool thing I'm excited about. So on The Void, no, we're not excited about that. But on The Void, the Daggerheart playtest site, they've just released these things called transformations. And these are additional cards that aren't connected to any domain or anything else, but these are things that can happen to you. They are Vampire, Werewolf, Reanimated, Shapeshifter, Ghost, Demigod. This is sort of like taking on a new ancestry. The cards are treated like ancestry cards in that they don't count against your domain loadout. But so let me read Vampire because this is pretty clever. So each card comes with a benefit and a drawback. Benefit is Fangs. Make a strength roll to bite a target within melee range, dealing D8 physical damage using your proficiency. Then Feed. On a successful Fangs attack against a living creature, you can mark a stress to feed. Place a number of tokens on this card equal to the number of hit points your target marks. You can hold up to 5 tokens at a time. Spend a token before an action roll to make your Fear die a d20 instead.
Hmm.
That I like a lot because you're more likely to succeed, much more likely to roll with fear, though.
Right.
When you take a long rest, remove a token. If there are no tokens on this card, all your action and reaction rolls are made with disadvantage.
Hmm.
So you feed and you get a certain number of tokens to represent this is the amount of blood I have in me. Every time you long rest, you lose some. So you have to feed every certain number of days. And they're all like that. Each one of them has a benefit you get and a drawback. And I think this is really awesome to use in campaigns to maybe combat some of Daggerheart's lethality.
Hmm.
You know, like maybe if a character dies, they have the option to come back reanimated or come
Yeah.
back as a ghost. And also, since this is just a card, this could happen. It's not attached to any level. This could happen at any time. You can drop this in a game. You can, let's say, everybody's going to be werewolves for the next 2 sessions, and then we'll find a way to cure it. You could do that, and I really love that. I love how simple and easy to integrate this is. Go
Yeah.
ahead. You have thoughts?
Yeah. As you were reading it, I'm like, I love this. This is great because it it, it gives the flavor of, especially with that feed mechanic. It really gives the flavor of the myth, right, of these beings without being unnecessarily crunchy and without needing to like rearrange your character sheet, change a bunch of stuff. Just comparing it to D&D, like the vampire in D&D, like you drain so many hit points from the creature, and then you get so many hit points, and you're doing a lot of math for that. And in past versions of D&D, there were level restrictions on all these things, right? That like you shouldn't be able to become a werewolf until I think it was like fourth or fifth level in third edition, so forth and so on. So yeah, I like this. This seems like, at least at first glance, so I haven't read all these cards. At least at first glance, my initial reaction is this looks great.
Yeah. And something like Demigod could be maybe even a level 11 boon. You know, Daggerheart only goes to level 10, so what if at the 10th level people still want to keep playing? Maybe now they go on a quest to all become demigods,
Yeah,
and they could earn that card. Um,
yeah,
let's see.
and that would be kind of a cool tactic to like surprise your players. Like as the game master, you're going to pull out these demigod cards, and so you kind of set it up so they think they're expecting the campaign to end at 10th level,
Hmm.
right? And so you kind of set up like what seems like it's going to be the big bad final scenario, then you smack them with a plot twist, and now they're 11th level as demigods. Save that as a surprise for the end of the campaign. That the campaign will then last an extra, 2 or 3 sessions. That'd be really fun.
Indeed. And I really like also if this Kickstarter works well, they're kickstarting the class pack cards, which I'm sure it will. You know, it's a Critical Role Kickstarter. I'm sure it's going to do great. Um, Maybe releasing more standalone cards is in the future. Because you know, if you can release supplemental rules that I can get in a $10 card pack, I like that. If I like getting one of those every 6 months rather than a 300-page new book every 5 years, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I've said this before on the show that role playing games, the design, are the the game development and the community. Role playing games are about 10 years behind strategy games, right? And not quite 10 years ago, but it was a while ago. A lot of tabletop strategy games went to using cards for that reason, because it's a lot easier to update your game by selling card packs than it is to do a new edition of the game.
Hmm.
um, Star Wars Legion, Crisis Protocol, Warhammer 40K. They all make use of cards in one way or another. And so yeah, the strategy games have been doing this for years now, and the RPG community is finally catching up. I think it's great.
Yeah. Just a couple other things that I remember. One thing from the Todd Kenrick video, he asked Chris Perkins about, he asked Crawford and Perkins specifically about what they're working on, and Crawford said he was working on taking a frame and expanding it into a full adventure.
Hmm.
And some people think it's going to be a Ravenlofty kind of thing. But Chris Perkins, what he said, I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat and read between the lines there. He said he's also working on an adventure, and he used the words communal,
Hmm.
and he said it would feel like the spirit of early fifth edition days.
Ooh,
I think Perkins is designing an organized play adventures league kind of thing for Daggerheart. That's my theory. You
that
heard
would
it
be
here first,
interesting.
folks. I'm either right or wrong in the future, so let us know.
Interesting.
Because they talked about it didn't. He used the word communal. That was the biggest thing, but it talked about like I can't remember what exactly it says. I'm probably close that already. It doesn't matter, but that was my takeaway. Is it sounded like some kind of shared adventure space, uh, which if they can pull off organized play for Daggerheart, I'd be impressed. Crawford's working on a full campaign setting. Yeah, yeah. He in the interview with Kenrick, he said that he had a campaign frame that he was then going to adapt into a full campaign setting.
Hmm.
And I wasn't sure if he said campaign setting or adventure or a blend. I'm not exactly sure. He used the word devilish. Yeah, yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. But it is interesting that they bring in Perkins and Crawford and they put them both to work making campaign settings right away.
Yeah. Did Crawford, or sorry, did Perkins say what his campaign setting is going to be?
No.
Because I mean, he's always been a big fan of the Feywild stuff. That's why he wrote that the last 5e campaign setting. Wild Beyond, was that Wild Beyond
Witchlight.
the Witchlight? Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves like Feywild stuff, but I think they already have. Don't they have a kind of a Feyish campaign frame in the core rules?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So I
mean,
wonder.
maybe it's taking that and expanding that into a full setting.
Yeah. So that was my first thought. Or, something, you know, a little more distinct and specifically like, fairy related. I don't know. Be interesting. It's interesting to see what they're going to do. It still blows my mind that Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins are working for Darrington Press.
Yeah.
Like every time I think about that, I'm like, damn. It's like Wonder Twin powers activate.
Steel of the century.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see what's going to happen. We need to move on to the next thing, and the next thing that we're going to talk about is that Ill Omens reporting long-running D&D news website outed as AI-generated slop. And the website they're referring to is dungeonsanddragonsfan.com. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that I've used this website in our show notes before, and I did not realize it was AI. But also, I guess I should say, when the title there says outed, what they really mean is accused of. There's Dungeons and Dragons fan hasn't commented on anything, but they were accused of being AI, and you should see the comments on Reddit. Oh boy,
I bet.
guilty before, guilty without being given a chance of a trial. That's for sure. But I looked into the site, and it does look like it's probably AI. The most telling thing is that on their staff page, none of them have social media. Not a single one of them has social media.
Hmm.
They're all just heads with bios about how much they love to chug Mountain Dew and play D&D when they were teenagers. So that's probably AI. So if just this is a public service announcement that if you want to avoid AI websites, Dungeons and Dragons fan is probably one of them, and I won't be looking to them as a news source anymore. I read it, Witch Hunt, unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, in this case, it's probably warranted, but whew, people get mad about something that is fully inevitable, and all that's left is the wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. So if you want a great source for RPG news, where do you go? Landlock Warlocks, right?
Casual Friday every Friday. Also, Brad put together a nice list of some alternatives.
Yeah. So these are websites that I've relied on for years, and I'm pretty confident that none of these are AI generated. EN World, right? Alpha Stream, which is Teos Abadia, and he partners with Sean Merwin. So Teos Abadia does the Alpha Stream blog. So like if you want like content to read, but if you want YouTube content, Teos and Sean Merwin do the Mastering Dungeons YouTube channel. Sly Flourish, of course, is a mainstay of the community. As is Justin Alexander with the Alexandrian blog. He also now has a YouTube channel. John Four, who's famous for his 5-room dungeon design, he has a blog called Role Playing Tips. He also has a newsletter that you can sign up for. Questing Beast of YouTube fame, if you're into old school stuff, Questing Beast has a really great newsletter called I forget the name of the newsletter, but I mean, if you go to Questing Beast on YouTube, you can watch any of his videos and you'll find a link to his newsletter that you can sign up for. And just mentioned these guys earlier, Eldritch Lorecast on YouTube. They do a great job with D&D news. So great way to get your role-playing game news without supporting alleged AI.
Yeah, Mastering Dungeons and Sly Flourish are on my every week listen podcast list, as well as Dungeon Master of None. They don't really do news. But
Yeah.
Dungeon Master of None is just a couple of nerds that I like who talk about games. So moving on to the next thing that we're going to talk about, there is now a Call of Cthulhu supplement for Dungeons and Dragons, and apparently Mike Merles had a hand in this before he left Chaosium. This was not on the bingo card.
No, and it's weird to me.
And go ahead.
Because I mean, 5th edition and 5.5 are, like we all know, is very like high fantasy heroic role playing game, and that's almost the exact opposite of the Cthulhu mythos, right? So it's, I mean, I guess it's gonna like hit a niche for some people who want to like use the mythos gods like Cthulhu and Dagon and all that sort of stuff. But I don't see how these two things go together. Like this is, it's not chocolate and peanut butter for me.
Well, this is from a different release. It said Cthulhu by Torchlight adds a new subclass to each of the character classes in the new player's handbook, along with over 24 mythos-themed spells, a new background, and new origin feats for DMs. It holds over 20 horrid monsters of the Cthulhu mythos. Rules for passions and dreadful insights amplify role-playing by putting mechanics behind your character's personality, while the skill challenge rules provide a framework for investigation, interaction, and other non-combat encounters. And I wrote in our agenda, they should have stolen chases. That's the best thing about Call of Cthulhu is their chase system.
Yeah.
D&D's chase system is bad.
Yeah.
Why didn't they steal that?
It's a great point.
I didn't buy this. I'm not interested in buying it. I don't know anyone who has bought it, so I haven't seen into the book other than I did a little research on Reddit to find out what other people were saying. I really wanted to find out about these skill challenges. How have they redone skill challenges for this? And I couldn't find any specifics other than some people said it was less mechanical. I don't know what that means. But yeah, if you want to try to do some old school investigation, well, here's another thing that's interesting. I think it says in here that Monsters of the Mythos, Great Cthulhu is a CR30 world-ending threat. And
you
that's
can't put it.
It's so
nah,
not Cthulhu. The idea that you could fight Cthulhu is the
no,
most
you
non-Cthulhu thing, right? That's so
right.
weird.
You can't put a challenge rating on Cthulhu or Dagon or any of those. Like, the whole point is they're like existential dread. These things are unstoppable, devastating forces. The whole point is it's hopeless. You can't do heroic fantasy. Like it breaks my brain. I'm having trouble putting sentences together because it's breaking my brain that bad.
Yeah, I am very interested to see other people's take on this when and maybe see how it actually feels at the table. Um, because I don't know. Cthulhu's not. It's a different system, but Call of Cthulhu is very polished. It's a good system. It's not hard to
Mm.
learn. They've had like seven editions now, so it's pretty smooth. They've worked out a lot of the kinks. Um,
Yeah, the only way this even comes close to appealing to me is there's a little bit of nostalgia because the original Deities and Demigods book that a friend of mine had, I should have stolen it from him when we were kids. I didn't like him that much anyway. Um, the first edition of the Deities and Demigods book had the mythos chapter, and it had all the Lovecraftian horrors and deities uh, in the book. And of course, legally, they didn't have the rights to print that, so the second printing, they took it out. So there is a little bit of nostalgia for me seeing like mythos creatures in D&D, but I wouldn't play it.
yeah, we haven't played this and we haven't actually read it. We've just read secondhand opinions and summaries, so don't take our word for it. But we give this one a yeah, that's our official opinion. So if you remember, I believe it was last week on this show, I was talking about the new Adventures in Faerun books, how they feature Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3, and how I was saying that they should do a lot more of that. I was saying Wizards of the Coast should ditch their 40-year-old cartoon mascots that nobody cares about anymore, and use more modern stuff. Well, they listened to me in the last week. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for watching Casual Friday. Hope you liked and subscribed while you were watching, because in the Forgotten Realms new books, there's a big $160 bundle that comes with special DLC, including Astarion's Book of Hungers, or sorry, Astarion's Book of Hungers, Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3, and this is good, yes. I'm not interested in this, but when I saw that it had an Astarion related book, for a second, I wanted it. Then I saw it cost $160, and I was like, not a chance. But I did want it because it had Astarion. So it's
is
working, Wizards. It's working.
is it $160 because it's like Beetle and Grimm level of like thoroughness and detail?
Where there's not a link in this Eon World article, but it comes. You get both of the player book and the GM book and I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big chunk of money. Unless,
That is
like
a
I
big
said,
chunk
unless
of
it's
money.
like the Beatles and Grimm level of quality where you get like tons of maps and handouts and like trinkets and all the stuff that you get in those Beatles and Grimm sets. Um, but yeah, that's a hefty price tag.
Okay, here we go. Ultimate bundle, $160. Uh, where does it say product specifications? That doesn't help. You get 288. Okay, you get the Heroes of Faerun. You get the Baldur's Gate 3 digital map pack, Forgotten Realms, Factions, digital dice set, Starn's Book of Hungers, Nethrill's Fall digital expansion, a secret third digital expansion to be revealed soon, the Atlas of Faerun, and then you get a 192-page book and a 288-page book. And that's it.
Hmm.
Boy, that's expensive for what you get.
So you're getting 3 books.
You get 2 physical books.
Hmm.
And then some PDFs. Not even PDFs. You'll get digital access to them on D&D Beyond.
D&D Beyond, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that price tag's going to have to come down before people buy it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I agree with you, though, like, about the Baldur's Gate characters in Baldur's Gate. I've always loved Baldur's Gate. I've actually never played Baldur's Gate 3, but I played 1 and 2 back in the day, and I've always loved the city of Baldur's Gate as a campaign setting. So anything they can do to use those characters that everybody's familiar with from Baldur's Gate 3, like I said, I haven't played it, but I could probably name all the optional, all those characters, right? The playable characters. And they're recognizable to me. Like I said, even though I haven't played the game, yeah, I think it's a great selling point. It's a great marketing tool to use those characters.
Yeah. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, yeah, we're all right. I would play this, but last week we played too much of the Thundercats YouTube video and got dinged on YouTube by whoever owns Thundercats did not like us playing their trailer. So screw you, Thundercats.
Oh, lion ho.
I don't understand getting a copyright hit when you're playing a trailer. I made a video about Scavenger's Reign, that brilliant TV show. All I did was play the trailer looped over, and I was talked over it, and they dinged me. I was like, it's the trailer. It's all publicly available trailer.
Yeah. That's crazy. I'll move my mic a little closer to my face.
I think they're saying you're loud.
Oh, I'm loud? I thought they were saying I wasn't loud enough. Okay, so I won't move the mic closer because it'll make it worse.
Your audio is a little loud compared to Jim. I just turned you down a little bit. We're still trying to work out some audio issues, and the platform we used changed one way to track audio, so we're figuring it out. Also, it's casual, so if you expect the name of the show is Casual Friday, so if you're expecting professional quality podcasting here, that's your problem. All right, so moving on to something I know almost nothing about. They also this week they've announced Monte Cook Games is putting out a new edition of the Cypher system, Cypher that powers Numenera, the Strange, the Magnus Archives. Probably most famously Numenera, right? Is there a more famous Cypher system game? Numenera is the one I seem to hear about the most.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Numenera was the first. I want to say Numenera as a game came out first, and then they took the core mechanics out and called it Cypher System, and then it's grown from there. That's my recollection anyway. I mean, my rattled old brain, though, I could get it wrong.
Well, all I really know about this is that recently, a year or two ago, Sly Flourish played a campaign, and he had very great things to say about Numenera. And I know Jorfton recently was running Numenera. He talked about it on his show that he wanted to play more Numenera, that he really liked it. And that's all I know. I believe Daggerheart took a couple of rules from Cypher System in their. Those are the books. The art looks pretty dope. That's a flying space whale. So I don't really know what else to say about this. Do you have any knowledge of Cypher System, or anybody in the chat really knowledgeable about Cypher?
I looked into it when it first came out, because there were definitely some concepts I liked about it. I like the 3-word character design. So like, I'm trying to think of an example now. I'm
an adjective, noun, who, verbs.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So that character design I thought was really interesting. I picked up a digital copy of I think it was one of the core books, whether it was Numenera or Cypher. I picked up a digital copy, read through the rules. A lot of things I liked about it, but then before I actually pulled the trigger to get the hardbacks and really dive into it, I watched a bunch of actual plays, and it just, I don't know, there's something about the rule set that really didn't click with me.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know any more than that. Hey, Unshelled Pity. I know he says the PH is silent, but I'm just punk rock like that. So I don't think we really have anything else to say about Cypher System. I hope that it's good. I hope that it convinces people to play other games when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm always excited for, new games, or new editions of other games that aren't D&D. I mean, there's no way I can play them all. I mean, God, if I could just, I don't know, neglect my children and my wife and just play games all the time,
You could,
I might be able to like play all the games I want to play, but that's just not a reality.
huh?
Um, the But I just love that the community has grown so large and we have so many options when it comes to gaming. I recognize there are really cool things about Cypher System and Draw Steel. I'm probably not going to play those two games, but I'm glad they exist, and I'm more power to the people that play them, because I think it's the lifeblood of our community is players, right?
Yeah. Mike, we didn't get a strike, just I don't know what you call it. It's less serious. It just they said that we couldn't monetize the video, which Landlocked Warlocks doesn't have enough subscribers, so it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, but still, F you, Thundercats. Be better.
Be better.
So
Yeah.
moving on, next part of the show is the part of the show that we call the catch up, where we just say, hey. Also, want to before we catch up, I want to remind you that coming up in 39 minutes is the fourth and final part of our Daggerheart miniseries, the big epic conclusion, and it's under 2 hours. You can handle that. Yeah, we play tight, we play fast, we play hard. That's how we play our role playing games. I did not go to Gen Con, I'm pretty sure. Brad, just mentioning those children he's not legally able to neglect, did not go to Gen Con. Due to our legal responsibilities to our children, we were not able to
Yeah.
attend.
I'm honestly not a big fan of the supersized cons. So I usually go to a couple local cons here in North Carolina. And then I loved Green Dragon Fest the first year. I didn't get to go last year. I'm definitely going this year. I like the smaller, more intimate feel of like the small cons, and the I guess you would call Green Dragon Fest a curated con. Um, I don't know. The Green Dragon Fest is like, I mean, I think like 60 people go to that. It's a
Mm.
very, very small, intimate environment, which I loved. It was fantastic. Actually, getting to know like a bunch of other YouTube creators and game designers. It was really cool to actually like spend time with them, like sit down and have like lunch with Hanker and Fernale. Um, you know, chat with Bob Worldbuilder. It was really great. I'm definitely going to Green Dragon Fest this year, but the big crazy cons don't do it for me.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not really a con guy. I used to go. I've been to this author con for a few years. It's called 20 Books to 50K. It's no longer. They rebranded with a new name, but I used to go to 20 Books to 50K in Vegas, partly because it was in Vegas, so it was just fun. The first year was great because like I met so many people and it was like networking and new things, and then after that, I don't know, it was like severely diminishing returns because like I go there and I know all these people already. And then I just would leave being like, that was fun, but was it really worth $4,000? Like there's like a
yeah,
lot of that. Like I could have maybe spent that money to better use on my career, editing books and stuff like that,
yeah,
buying book covers.
yeah. I mean, you could do a lot with some, design, put towards designing your own role playing game with $4,000, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I
I
just
also,
illiterate.
I also have mobility issues, so like walking long distances is hard for me. So again, that's another reason why I don't go to the big cons.
Yeah, and anything in Vegas, the hotels in Vegas, to get from your room to the front of the hotel, it's a 20-minute walk in every hotel in Vegas. It's nuts. You
Mm.
walk an hour and a half in Vegas just going from places that can transport you from one to another, like going from your hotel to an Uber or your hotel to the whatever. Vegas is a mess. Um,
But yes,
anyway,
Green Dragon Fest is the one with the Hobbit houses. It's in Tennessee at this place called Eldritch Lore Village. Um, So you can do it like cheaper. Like the tickets are, the tickets to Green Dragon Fest they're a little pricey, but if you like get your own Airbnb or your own hotel and you get shuttled in, or you are able to drive to Tennessee, you'd have your own car to go back and forth. It's a cheaper way to do that. It's kind of pricey to stay in the Hobbit houses. But I did that the first year, and it was really fun to like just step outside your little Hobbit hole, and there's everybody ready to game. It's fantastic.
Kiwis love walking. Nacho, I have been to Hobbiton. Is it Matamato? I don't remember the name of the town, but we drove through there on our way to Lake Taupo. Because I worked the Lake Taupo Cycle Challenge in 2010. And it was amazing. 10,000 cyclists. The town transformed. It was crazy. So during this catch up, Brad, you said pre-show you said there was something you were going to mention, and I think you said you'd save it for the catch up, and I forgot what that was. Do you remember?
You Dare, the game that we made with the help of the third guy who's not around right now. So I've been playing one shots of Shadow Dark for summer because like everybody's schedule is crazy in the summertime. So I got tired of like, oh, we don't have enough people to play. So I invited some new people to play, including my wife and some of her friends. And so the one shots of Shadow Dark have been great, but I was kind of like, one shots are just a lot of work, right? In fact, I feel like planning a one shot is more work than planning an average session of a game, because the average campaign, right, you do a bunch of work, and then each session is easier and easier to plan because the players are doing stuff, right? So I think one shots are hard to do in crunchy systems, and Shadow Dark's not even a crunchy system, but I was getting a little burned out on like how much work I was putting into these one shots. So I changed it up, and we played You Dare last night, our game. And I did this like action sci-fi setting, and we had a blast. It was honestly like definitely top 5 sessions I've ever run as a game master in like 40 years of game mastering, possibly like top 3. It was super fun. And my wife, who plays very casually, because we had a bunch of people show up last night, my wife was like, I'll sit this one out and I'll just like mix the drinks and watch. And like we're like 30 minutes into the session, and she's like, I didn't know this was an improv game. I totally would have played, because she's like a theater kid, and You Dare has all, it has a super light, flexible system where your character evolves really quickly in game. And for her, like it was pushing all of her improv theater kid buttons. She was like, I want to play this more. So yeah, it was fantastic. We had a really great session, and the flexibility allowed me to do things on the fly that would have been much harder to do in just about any other system. The coolest part is one of the players decided to embrace the cyborg threat, basically giving themselves over and becoming what we call the freak mother. So her character's name was Freak, and she bonded with the main cyborg alien, and so she became the big bad. So like on the fly, I just adapted the You Dare rules to basically change up the action economy for a big final fight. So she actually fought all the rest of the characters. And the You Dare system is so like streamlined and easy to use. It was very easy to do. So it was a lot of fun, and we had this big climactic scene where they all fought, like all the players fought against her, but she was assimilating them. So and they were so they were going back and forth between being controlled by her and breaking free of her control. And eventually it came down to where it was 4 of the players were all assimilated. And there were 2 left, and they're like, this is going to be a total party kill. And like, it came down to like, one last pair of dice rolls to see if they were all going to be assimilated or if they were going to defeat the Freak Mother. And it was a super exciting, very cinematic game. It was fantastic.
Wow. So you said your wife was she was surprised that it was improv. Had she tried other TTRPGs before and found them too crunchy, or was this her first experience?
Yeah, she's played 5e, and she's played Shadow Dark. I'm trying to think if she's played any other games with us. She definitely finds 5e too crunchy. She likes Shadow Dark much better than 5e. And then, but when she saw this, like, she was like, "This is like an improv game with dice."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah. And I designed it a long time ago, and I've been telling you should play.
Does she like The Bachelor?
Oh, that's right, your Bachelor game.
She would really like, if she likes that at all, or any of those kind of Love is Blind romance crap shows, you should try Not Here to Make Friends, because it's almost all improv.
You are so
Very
right.
little rules.
My two oldest daughters, they love Love Island, right? And they've watched The Bachelor and all this stuff. I totally forgot that you designed that game. Yeah. I definitely am going to schedule a game night with my two oldest girls and play some Not Here to Make Friends. Yeah.
Yeah. I made it's a 2-page RPG called Not Here to Make Friends, which is sort of a gamification of The Bachelor. It's a GM-less game. It's mostly just improv storytelling. You build on what happened. Yeah, that's also You Dare. We all made together, me and Brad and some other guy we're not going to mention. And yeah, I made Not Here to Make Friends. So we probably need to move on because it's only 30 minutes until episode 4 of our Daggerheart miniseries. But moving on, our roundtable discussion today is, in light of all these recent announcements, we're going to do what we do every few months here on the show, is that we're going to read the tea leaves and ask chat, and we're all going to have a discussion about what we think is happening in the future of tabletop role-playing games. Because to me, I don't see any clear direction of where it's headed. You know, I think there's been periods where you could say that the industry is heading, that the players prefer more narrative games, or the players prefer more crunch, or they prefer more sci-fi, or they prefer more traditional fantasy. I don't think there's such a wide variety of things coming out right now. I don't think we can say any of that. And the example I put in our agenda was, you've got Draw Steel, which is crunchy AF, which is as crunchy as 5th edition D&D, maybe even as crunchy as 4th edition D&D. I haven't dug into the numbers enough. Versus really popular storytelling games that are coming out right now, like the games that are winning all the awards are games like, I hadn't heard of this until a few months ago, but it's called Yaziba's Bed and Breakfast, which is a very popular indie TTRPG that involves putting stickers in a book. It's slice of life. It's like there's a bunch of different pre-gen characters who all appear throughout the book, and you play one or more of them, and you go to stay at this witch's bed and breakfast. She's like a sad witch. And you have to cheer her up, and you have, each character has goals that they accomplish to learn things about themselves, and you get stickers in the book when you do these things. And it sounds wild. It doesn't sound like something that the tabletop role-playing game community, who likes to paint miniatures and put them on battlefields and roll dice to damage imaginary creatures. It doesn't sound like something that the community would be into, but it's huge. It's won a bunch of awards. So where are we headed? Are we headed into a future where everyone has the game they want because there are so many games? Are we headed into the future where there are individual game? What, Mr. Vincent? What did I do?
I think he's responding to your Not Here to Make Friends. He's like, what the hell?
I don't know, Brad. What do you think? Let's get this conversation going.
Yeah, I think you can point to the history of RPGs, and you can definitely find specific points where the community and the industry change directions, right? So, original D&D, BX D&D, first edition, very Gygaxian dungeon crawl, rocks fall, everybody dies. Deadly Dungeons, right? That was like early 70s or late 70s, early 80s, right? Then um, then when the Dragonlance novels come out, the Dragonlance campaign setting comes out. We get a whole bunch of new campaign settings for first edition, and then continue to get more for second edition. The game really transitions from the gritty dungeon crawl to the epic campaigns, more Lord of the Rings style, more Dragonlance style. People wanted big, epic, long-standing campaigns. Then in the 90s, there's like kind of this push towards more narrative games with like Vampire the Masquerade really caught on, and White Wolf games and all that sort of stuff. And then we see another big push with the D20 system. So we're talking D20 system was that late 90s, early 2000s, The D20 system came out, the original OGL for third edition. And everybody was pushing towards going to the D20 system because of the OGL. There was a very clear direction. You had D20 systems for like everything back then. You go into the game store and like 90% of the books on the shelf had the D20 sticker on it. And so, yeah. However, well, I guess to continue that timeline, then you have the OSR movement, right? So after the crunchiness of third and fourth edition, the OSR movement, and people are trying to get back to that first edition era, right? But now, I think we have so many people, right? The hobby is so big that it can support all these different types of games at once. Because ultimately, what you really need, and this is in Daggerheart, looks like they are answering this question in a very strong way. We'll have to see if Drog Steel can answer this question. Can you get people to play your game? Right? That's the biggest question. You can make the coolest freaking game ever. Like I remember when 13th Age came out, like this is a great version of D&D. I didn't know anybody who would play it, right? And you got to have players for your game. And I think that's why for so long we've seen trends in the industry where like everybody kind of steers one direction. But I think the hobby is big enough now that the hobby can go in multiple directions at once. And I think that's fantastic.
I think one thing we're seeing with Daggerheart is that how important brand recognition is. D&D has been on the top of the hill for 50 years, not because it's the best role-playing game out there. It's because it's the most recognizable role-playing game out there. And we're seeing with Daggerheart, is Daggerheart the best role-playing game out there? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But they've got a lot of brand weight behind them. And Drawsteel, I like it. What I've seen so far, does it have brand weight behind it? Not really. As huge as Matt Colville is a deity in our industry, but nobody outside of that has heard of him, right?
Mhm.
But a lot of people outside of tabletop games have heard of Matt Mercer,
Mhm.
and the Critical Role cast, and even know what it is. There's articles about them on Forbes. There's articles about them in, Wall Street Journal. There's like business articles about them, and I don't think that Forbes is writing articles about Matt Colville. So what does that mean? I think that if D&D is ever going to be toppled, which is a dumb topic that we have to keep talking about because people keep talking about it, it's going to be with a company like with brand weight. The cream rises to the top is not true at all. There's no
Right.
truth to that. The best marketed cream is the cream that gets to the top. The cream with the best pedigree and the smartest marketing dollars behind it. That's the cream that goes to the top. And that's the way it's going to continue to be. So like DC-20 is great, Draw Steel's great, all these games, and Shadow Dark's great, all these games that are coming out is great, but almost none of them have the potential to break beyond the niche that is our industry the way that Dungeons and Dragons has.
Yeah.
The day that there's a Shadow Dark starter set in Target, I will flip my lid in a good way. I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
a Daggerheart starter set in Target is pretty likely, especially with their sales track record. Daggerheart Darrington can go to Target and say, "Hey, look, these are the numbers we're doing. You should carry our game in your stores."
Right.
Because previously only Wizards of the Coast could do that. Kelsey can't go to Target and say, as much as Shadow Dark is selling in our industry, it's not selling outside our industry, and that's the thing.
Yeah, and also, I mean, those are all great points. Agree with you 100%. The cozy thing, right? You were just talking about what was name that game that
Yaziba's Bed and Breakfast.
yeah, the cozy themed games, right? Um, those are really catching on with the casual gamers, right? Like you've got cozy mobile games and you've got cozy board games, right? So it's not going to be much of a stretch to get somebody who's playing those to hop over into a cozy RPG because it's they're so rules light that you can make them kind of like that in between space between board game and RPG, right? Um, so I think those cozy games are going to be a great way to draw casual players in. How much that'll translate to people, like, I don't know, are you going to go from, your cozy RPG about bunnies to playing Draw Steel? Probably not. But you might go from a cozy RPG to maybe Shadow Dark for something a little different, right? Still on the rules light side. I could see that. Or, if you're really into the narrative stuff, you're playing a cozy RPG as a new gamer, then you could start going down the narrative path and maybe eventually go down that narrative game path until you get to Daggerheart, which is is a kind of a crunchy version of a narrative game, right? So yeah, I think having multiple genres, multiple styles is really good for the hobby, and I think we've got plenty of people in the hobby now to support it. You know, so I'm excited. I think this industry has plenty of room for growth. We're still way far behind video games.
Mm.
We're still far behind strategy games, right? There's far more people that play Warhammer 40K than there are that play role playing games. And that's just 40K. There's a whole bunch of other strategy games out there, around 40K. So, you I could definitely, I never see RPGs, tabletop RPGs catching up to video games. But I could see tabletop RPGs catching up to strategy games. Um, you know, that could be really cool to see us get that large.
Indeed. So we're running low on time. We've got a couple more story news items I want to get to here. But that was a good discussion. It's good for us to read the tea leaves every once in a while because things do be changing.
Yeah.
So coming up next, we've talked several times about maps on D&D Beyond, and not a VTT that I use a lot because I'm not running 5e currently, but I have used it in the past and enjoy it. I think it's one of the best VTTs. Well, apparently they're making it free for everybody coming up in September. So previously you had to have a subscription. You had to have one of the paid subscriptions to use maps. Well, they're just deciding to, they're doing a very smart thing and making it a lot more widely available. I think this was probably their intended purpose the whole time, and just keeping it locked to subscribers was probably a way of beta testing it for a couple of years before putting it out to wide release. That's my suspicion.
That makes sense.
This is smart. Whoever has been in charge of making decisions related to maps, those people should have more power because they're doing it right. This is like the one part of Wizards of the Coast, at least on the D&D side, that they keep getting it right. They keep iterating and improving and getting it right, and whereas a lot of other parts of the D&D factory keep stepping on rakes, putting out bad books, and doing dumb stuff, Maps is batting 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. it does seem to be the one part of Dungeons and Dragons that is doing things the right way, like, drawing people in, streamlined, efficient design, and then expanding on that and growing their user base that way. I think it seems really good stuff.
Yeah, they are smart. Yeah, and Nacho, I completely agree with you. The last time I ran 5e, I ran something in maps, and it was so nice because they had players had D&D Beyond characters, and the integration with it so quick and easy to get going. Yeah, maps being free is a good move because it's going to help them sell more books. It's going to help them get more signups, more characters created, sell more books. This is not something that they need to charge $10 a month for. They could be they could be because Roll20 free for players but not free for dungeon masters, right? Chat, let me know. I've never run a game professionally on, or I've never run a game on Roll20. I played in thousands of hours of Roll20 games, but I think you got to pay. And one reason I like Owlbear Rodeo is it's free. It's limited. I only have a certain number of storage space, and there's a pay version of Owlbear 20, but I can get everything I need for free from Owlbear and maps. The next thing we do, unfortunately, have to end our news on a bit of a bummer. The tariffs are taking place. There's chaos all around the world right now because of the American tariffs. The de minimis exception has been ended, which usually a shipment that was $800 or less could be exempted from tariffs. So if you were ordering small things, not ordering small amounts of product from a country affected by tariffs, you could skirt underneath it. Well, no longer. So now you will be paying tariffs on everything. If you're in the US, you're buying outside the country, the game will be suggested tariffs no matter how much it costs. If you're a publisher buying from whose US warehouse, situation won't change. Yes, so it's only stuff that's arriving at ports. If you're buying books, as yet there's still no tariffs. The tariffs will kick down on box sets, board games, and other packages which contain non-book items.
Yeah, this really seems to be hitting the board gaming folks really hard, and it's also hitting the strategy game folks, the smaller strategy game folks, pretty hard too. So, of course, we've also had this trend in strategy games to really rely on Kickstarter, and that has like backlogged a lot of small companies into a financial jam where they've overpromised and underdelivered because they got way too many Kickstarters going out. And this tariff thing hops on and like just is like we're looking at some of the popular strategy game companies are really struggling. In fact, I think it was just a few weeks ago we looked at how Cool Mini or Not was selling off Zombicide, which is like that was their bread and butter for a long time. So it's definitely affecting the gaming industry. And like we predicted, I don't know, months ago, this is doing exactly what we said it might. It's driving the smaller companies out of business, or at least reducing the size of their business, while the bigger companies, the Games Workshop, Asmodee, Wizards of the Coast, are gobbling up the market share of the gaming industry. Asmodee is one of those ones that really seems to be tariff proof by the way they're designed, but even they have raised prices. Asmodee is they're the ones that make Star Wars Legion and Crisis Protocol and Star Wars Shatterpoint, and they're one of the biggest gaming companies out there, because they also own not only those strategy games I just mentioned, they also own Fantasy Flight that makes a whole bunch of tons of board games. So yeah, it's really a situation where the rich get richer because the bigger companies are able to withstand the tariffs and the smaller companies are not. And that's very unfortunate for our industry to see indie designers struggle. I think thankfully the RPG side of the gaming industry is not hit as hard because they're, you can sell PDFs and you're mostly just selling books. Where like because board games and strategy games, because of plastic miniatures and card sets and die cut cardboard, that's really hard to make all that stuff in the States.
Yep.
So yeah, this is sad. It's really sad to watch. We were just talking about how exciting it is to watch the RPG industry grow. And we're watching our cousins, the board game industry and the strategy game industry, really struggle right now because of these tariffs.
Yeah, it is a bummer. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Okay, so that's it for us today. Hey, coming up in 10 minutes on the Landlocked Warlocks YouTube channel, part 4 of our Daggerheart miniseries. You can't watch the first 3 parts in the next 10 minutes, but you could try. And so that's all for us. Go, take a bathroom break. I'll be in the chat for most of it. I think I might have to run out real quick, but I'll be in the chat saying hey. And if you want to see some intense Daggerheart combat, want to see crunchy Daggerheart, this is a good place to do it. It's I can't spoil things. I want to say stuff, but you're gonna find out soon. All right, everybody. I'm Jim. That's Brad. Thanks for watching. We love you, and we'll see you soon.
Real quick though, I'm gonna slip something in here. The chat earlier was taking odds on who survives this final episode, and that is not a bad idea.
Okay, let's hear it in the chat on the episode, because we'll see. No spoil. You'll get nothing from us. Bye guys. We'll see ya.
Bye guys.